Good morning students, welcome back to our online classes initiated by Rishiram Shikshan Sansthan, Joshiara Uttarkashi. Today's subject is economics for class 12 and the topic continuous national income and related aggregates. So in the previous video we have learned about the meaning and types of investment, where gross investment or gross domestic capital formation we have learned and the net investment we have learned. Now in today's video we are going to learn about depreciation. Depreciation, or we can say consumption of fixed capital. So the consumption of fixed capital, we can say it is called depreciation. Now what is depreciation? So depreciation is a fall or loss in the value of fixed assets. So whatever the assets we can say in Hindi punji. So whatever punji or the assets we have, that there is a loss or fall of those assets. Now, so the concept of depreciation is very important in economics. So in economics we need to understand the concept of depreciation because it is very important, and we need to understand the difference between gross value and net value. So we have to understand the difference between gross value and net value. So we can say that gross value is inclusive of depreciation. It inclusive means the gross value includes depreciation or includes depreciation, and net value is exclusive of depreciation, exclusive, or we can say it is excluded or left. So gross we can say is a net plus, so we can say it is included. So included means plus, and net is exclusive and it is minus. So because it excludes, therefore it subtracts. So we can say that gross is equals to net plus depreciation. So we can say gross is equals to net plus depreciation, and gross, or if we bring depreciation here, or if we move these things above the equal to sign, we can say that gross minus net is equals to depreciation, or we can say net is equals to gross plus depreciation. So these are the examples of inclusive or exclusive of depreciation. So how it includes or how it excludes depreciation. So what is depreciation? Depreciation is the fall or loss of the value of fixed assets. So whatever the value is somewhere lost, or the value has been it has a fall, that is calculated or is called as fixed consumption of fixed capital, or we can say it is calculated as depreciation. So now causes of depreciation. So what is basically the causes of depreciation? So depreciation is caused due to normal wear and tear. Normal wear and tear, when we use something, so some things suddenly wears and tears, or we can say it suddenly breaks down, and expected obsolescence expected obsolescence. Now depreciation, as we know, is the lost value of capital goods or fixed assets due to these two conditions, wear and tear and expected obsolescence. So now wear and tear, normal wear and tear, let us understand what is this normal wear and tear. So during production process, the productive capacity of the fixed assets, for example we can say fixed assets, examples machines, tools, trucks, and engines, etc. These are all our fixed capitals. So the normal wear and tear of these is during the production process, the capacity of the fixed assets goes on declining. The production goes on declining, or we can say the production decreases, and due to which, because it is continuous, because the decline is continuous, due to which leading to fall in its value. So what the value of that fixed asset will slowly fall down because the production has declined. And when you sell your car, it does not fetch you the same value you bought it for 2 years. For example, if we say, let's say you bought a car 2 years ago, and at that time you utilize that car, but after 2 years the performance of that machine will not be as when you first bought it at the first time. So slowly it will have some wear and tear process. So these are the normal wear and tear process due to which the depreciation occurs. And second is expected obsolescence. Expected obsolescence is we can say refers to the loss in the value of fixed asset is due to continuous changing in technology. So as you see in today's world, things have been changed continuously or slowly. For example, if we look back 3 years or 5 years before, the phones, Android phones, were not so well developed. Now as the time passes, the phones have become more smarter, and that's why the phones are called smartphones. And so the technique of production is somewhere we can say continuous change in technology or technique of production. So there's a change in technology and technique of production. For example, let us say fall in the value of typewriter. So at the time when computer was not we can say computer was not evolved or it was not discovered, at that time most people used to type in a typewriter. So due to changes in technology or the technique of production, the typewriter, the use of typewriter has been we can say in one way have been forgotten. We have forgotten to use typewriter because now in the modern technology we are using laptops or you can say a PC, computer, personal computer, and etc. So due to the introduction of computers, the typewriter has lost its value, and this is an example of technological obsolescence. So this is the example of technological obsolescence, that is the typewriter. So how the introduction of computer made the value of typewriter decline. Second is expected changes in demands of goods and services due to change in taste and preference, fashion trends, lifestyle, and etc. So this is the second thing due to which expected, which means that we expect that these changes will happen. Now for example, we at present time we say the next generation or the next generation, the time will be so modern that you don't even have to carry your phones. It will all be advanced. So these all changes in taste. So the changes in demands of goods. So whatever the consumer demands of good changes due to change in their taste, their preference, what they like or do not like, and the fashion trends, what the fashion is going in the present, and the lifestyle, etc. Third is expected changes in government policy. So expected changes in government policy also is the cause of depreciation, because let's say whatever, if the government increases its technology and the technique productions, the things will automatically, the value of that things will automatically decline. So now let us understand depreciation reserve fund or provision for depreciation. Now what is this? So owing to their depreciation, fixed assets need to replaced after some time. So whatever the life period of that fixed asset, after that time the consumer need to replace that assets. So replacement of fixed assets. So to replace that fixed assets, the provision of fund, so a provision of fund, or to enable the producer to buy new assets after the expiry of that assets is, we can say, expiry of that assets. For example, let's just understand this with an example. So a consumer purchases, let's say, assets of 1 lakh. So this was his, and the time period for this asset was 5 years. So the time period for this asset was 5 years. Now the depreciation reserve fund or the provision for depreciation would be calculated. We can calculate it as the annual provision by dividing this 1 lakh by the time period. That will be 20,000. So the 20,000, this 20,000 is the fund so accumulated, or we can call it as depreciation, or we can call this as depreciation reserve fund. Depreciation reserve fund. So whatever the assets or whatever the fixed assets are purchased by the producer, that has its own time period, and after that time period when it expires, so a consumer needs, if he wants to buy some, let's just take for example, a person buy a bike at 1 lakh rupees, and after the time period of that bike expire, when he will give that, so some amount of money will be gained from that, and from that some amount of money gained, he will add extra money so that he can buy new assets to him. So now let us understand capital loss or unexpected obsolescence. So a capital loss is the loss in the value of a fixed assets due to two reasons, that is natural calamities like floods, earthquakes, fire and etc. Second is unforeseen factors like war, theft and etc. So if you can see that floods, earthquake, fire, these are unexpected things which can happen, and obsolescence means the things which are obsolete, or we can say things which are outdated, or for example we can say the typewriter. Now the use of typewriter has been forbidden because due to the invention of computer, so therefore the typewriter is an obsolescence. So now capital loss occurs due to natural calamities like floods, earthquake, fire and etc. And second is unforeseen factors like war, theft and etc. So thus loss of the assets or loss of fixed assets, due to unexpected obsolescence, due to these unexpected obsolescence or the unexpected obsolescence, it is therefore called capital loss. Therefore it is called capital loss. Now second is provision for capital loss. Now provision for capital loss, and this loss can be financed from depreciation reserve fund. So the loss can be financed from depreciation reserve fund. So we can say that the depreciation reserve fund can provide money to the loss that has occurred or that has happened. So, or second thing we can say the provision for capital is insurance, and getting things insured against unexpected obsolescence or obsolete provides provision for the capital loss, and these will provide the provision for capital loss. Now let us understand the difference between depreciation and capital loss. Let us now understand the difference between depreciation and capital loss. So what is the difference between depreciation and capital loss? So on the basis of meaning, nature of loss and provisions, depreciation on the basis of meaning is the normal wear and tear of expected obsolescence. So these losses in the value of fixed assets can be classified as normal wear and tear, and these losses are expected obsolescence. And on the basis of meaning, capital loss, these are natural calamities and unforeseen, or we can say unexpected obsolescence. So capital loss is natural calamities, or we can say it happens due to, or the reason for capital loss in which the loss in the value of fixed assets is due to, as told earlier, that natural calamities and unforeseen or unexpected obsolescence. So this is the meaning of capital loss. Whereas depreciation, it is just the loss in the value of fixed asset through normal wear and tear and expected obsolescence. So nature of loss, if we say nature of loss, we can see that depreciation is expected, or we can say depreciation is expected loss, whereas capital loss is an unexpected. You cannot expect that loss to happen. So that is all unforeseen, we can say, or it is not expected. Second, provision. So what provisions are there for depreciation and for loss, capital loss? So provision for depreciation is that we have to maintain depreciation reserve fund, as explained earlier. What is depreciation reserve fund? And for capital loss, the provision is of insurance, where we get insurance for the loss. So domestic or economic territory. Now domestic territory is used in national accounting, and it is very important in economics, and has a special meaning, and is much bigger than the political frontiers of a country. So as the word territory, as you all know, territory is the region, or is the boundaries, we can say, that touches the certain region. So but beside this territory or the frontier or the region, it is much more beside these things in terms of economics. So according to United Nations, so what the United Nations says about domestic or economic territory is that economic territory is the geographical territory. This economic territory is a geographical, or we can say it's a geographical, as you all know the word geography, our physical surrounding. So it is the geographical territory, and it is administered by a government, and it is administered, or we can say it is ruled, or it is viewed by the government within which, so within that territory, a person, within which persons goods and capital circulate freely. So these goods and capitals, they circulate freely in that territory, is called as an economic territory. So domestic territory includes, now what all domestic territory includes is that it includes political frontiers, or we can say geographical territory, including territorial waters and airspace. So these include to domestic territory. So now how does political frontier, like the geographical territory including territorial waters and airspace, how are these included? Let's take for example the Maneri Dam. The Maneri Dam, in that the water is stored and electricity is generated, and through that electricity electricity is supplied to the consumer, and in response they get the bills. So therefore it is included in domestic territory. Or in another example we can say is the telecommunication services, which is provided through the air or space, and in this the Reliance Communication in India has established their telecommunication. Second is embassies, consulates, military base, etc., and these were located abroad. So all the peoples, the embassies, let's say for example Indian embassies is located in America. So the Indian embassy is located in America. So that also includes in our domestic territory. So and third is the ships, aircraft, etc., operated by the residents. These are operated by the residents between two or more countries. Between two or more countries. For example, if we can say our Air India. Air India is between Singapore and Japan. So it's between Singapore and Japan, and therefore this is also included in our domestic territory. And last is fishing vessels, oil and natural gas, gas rigs, etc., operated by the residents. In the international waters or other areas over which country enjoys exclusive right. For example, we can say research projects undertaken by Indian government in international waters in the Indian Ocean is a part of domestic territory. So Indian Ocean, the researchers are taking a project, they have undertaken a project for, let's say, oil, natural gases, and etc. So these all includes in our domestic territory. So implication of domestic or economic territory. So national income and related aggregates are basically measures of production activity. These measures the production activity. So therefore there are two categories of national income aggregates. So there are two categories. One is domestic and national, or we can say domestic product and national products. So production activity of the production units located within the economic territory. So all the production activities of production unit, what to be produced, the production units located in the economic territory is domestic product. So whatever we produce in our economic territory, it is called domestic product. So there are two types of product: gross domestic product, net domestic products, and are some examples of domestic and economic territory. These we will we will study the implications of these in further videos. Now we will understand what is normal residence of a economy. Normal residents of a country. Now, who are normal residents of a country? So, in national income, it has been defined as sum of factors income earned by normal residents of a country. So, thus the term normal residence is a very important concept in in national income accounting, in economics, the chapter national income accounting. Now who is a normal person? So a normal residence is said to be a person or an institution. So it can be either a person or an institution, but they have to fulfill the two conditions. That condition is first of all, who ordinarily resides or is located in a country. So those person or institution who has basically resides in the location of our country is called a normal resident. And second is whose center of economic interest lies in that country, who is indulged, or we can say who is indulged in the basic economic activities like spending and accumulation and all these economic activities. So if these two conditions are fulfilled, then a person is called a normal resident of a country. Now if you see that there are two conditions to become a normal resident, and first of all, that is they should stay in the country for more than 1 year. So if they study in if they stay in a country more than 1 year, so then that person or an institution is called as normal residents. And second is their interest of staying in that country, their interest, or we can say their center interest should be on the economic activities of that country. And so then that person or that institution will be called as normal residents. Now basically there are difference between residents and citizen. So a citizen, as you all know, a citizen or a national is a person born by birth, and he is born by birth, but a resident is a person who lives in that country. Now for example, let us just try to understand. We have seen many people of our country working or staying in America or England. They have been resided for the years, and they have lived there, and they have become the part of that country economic activities, and they are indulged or engaged in that. And these person can be citizen of a country and can also be a normal resident. But these are those people which resides in other countries, but they are Indians. Therefore these people are called NRI, non-resident of India. So now let us understand the implication of normal residents. Production activity of a residence of an economic territory is national income. So whatever the production activities indulge of the residents in that economic territory, that is called national product. For example, we can say GNP, NNP, GNP gross national product, NNP net national product are some examples of national products. Now national products includes production activities of residents, or we can say normal, irrespective to or irrespective of whether performed within the economic territory or outside it. So whether the person is engaged in the activities of production in the our economic territory or outside our territory. So in comparison, if we say domestic products includes production activities of production units located in the economic territory irrespective of whether that is carried out by the residents or it is carried by the non-residents. So whether that production unit or the production is done by whether whether done by the residents or non-residents. Now so examples of non-residents. What are the examples? So these are the people, or these are called non-residents because they do not fulfill the criteria of center economic interest as told earlier. They do not fulfill that criteria. So who are these? Now first of all, international organizations like the World Bank, WHO, IMF are not treated residents of any country. These are not treated residents of any country but of international area. But these are the residents of international areas. So these are non-residents organization. These are non-residents organization for the country in which they are situated. So wherever the headquarters of World Bank, wherever the headquarters of WHO, wherever the headquarters of IMF, wherever it is situated, these are not residents or these are non-residents for that particular country. Second is employees of international organizations are considered residents of the country to which they belong. So employees of international organization. So whoever is the employee of international organizations, those persons are considered residents of the country to which they belong and not to the international areas. So they are working in the international organization, but they are the residents of the country and they do not belong to the national areas. Third is worker from across the border who crosses border regularly to work in the given country. So a person who has to cross the border regularly to work in that country, they are treated as residents of the country where they live. So where they live, they are the residents of their country because they are engaged in the earning, or we can say they are engaged in the central economic activities of their country rather than where they are working. So next is foreign visitors or traveler visiting the given country for studies, medical treatment, recreation, or to take part in sports, cultural events, etc. These are non-residents for the country they are visiting. So all the foreigners who are coming for visiting the area, or they are traveling and visiting the country either for studies or for medical treatment. They have come they are very serious and they do not have special doctors, and therefore they have to go to the experts, we can say, for the recreation. Or if any person who takes part in sports or cultural events, these are all persons who are non-residents for the country they are only visiting. Next is foreign staff of embassies and member of foreign armed forces located in a given country. So foreign staff of embassies. So whoever is the staff in the foreign embassies, they are member of foreign armed force, but of not here country. Let's say for example America also have an embassy in our country. So these foreigner countries are not engaged in our economic activities. So they will be of America or of England, wherever the embassies is. The crew of foreign ship, aircraft, etc. So these are all examples of non-residents. Now let us understand the importance of concept of domestic territory and normal residence. So what is the concept of domestic territory and normal residence? So the concept of domestic territory and normal residence are important to differentiate between domestic product and national product. So this is very important because through this we can understand which are domestic products and which are national products. So the concept of domestic territory helps to estimate domestic products. So domestic products includes goods produced by a production unit. So in this, goods are produced by a production units located in the economic territory. They are located in the economic territory irrespective of the fact whether carried out by the residents or whether the production units, whether it is done by the residents or non-residents. The monetary value of domestic products is termed as domestic income. So whatever the monetary value is earned or of the domestic product, these are termed as, or these are called as, domestic income. The concept of normal residence helps to estimate national products. So domestic territory helps to understand the domestic income, and the normal residence helps to estimate national product. National products includes goods produced by normal residents. And who are normal residents? Normal residents, those who are ordinarily resides or is located in a country, or whose center of economic interest lies in that country where they live. So normal resident, irrespective of fact whether performed within the economic territory or it is performed outside the territory. For example, outside we can say the embassy of India located or situated in America or England. So the monetary value of national product, there the monetary value of the national product will be termed as national product or national income. Now let us see factor cost and market price. Factor cost and market price. Now factor cost, we can say, while estimating national income and related aggregates, monetary value, the monetary value, or we can say the money value of the final goods and services can be estimated in two ways. And so the money value for the final goods and services can be measured or can be estimated with two methods, and those two methods are factor cost FC and market price MP. Now what is factor cost? Now factor cost is that cost which refers to all factor payments made by the producing units. So for example, if we say a producing unit had been established on a land, so all those payments that a producing unit we can call a firm. So a firm is a producing unit, and the all the payments that are made by this firm to the factor of production. So what are the factors of production? We can say land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. These all are production or factors of production. So these firm pays to the factor of production, and for rendering their productive services, and in return they give rent, wages, and interest, and profits, etc. So these are the we can say the monetary value paid for the production, paid by the production units. So these are called factor cost. Then is market price. So the market price is the price in which a consumer or in which a person buys that commodity from the market and has to pay the market value or whatever the market price has been defined, that we have to pay. So that is called the market price. So market price, we can say, is the sum of factor cost plus NIT, net indirect tax or net indirect taxes. So market price, this is the sum of factor cost and NIT, net indirect tax. Now it is the difference between indirect taxes and subsidies. So we can say that NIT is the difference between indirect tax and subsidies. So what is indirect tax? Now indirect taxes are all taxes on goods and services during their production, their manufacturing, selling, transporting, etc. are called indirect taxes. So these are all indirect taxes. And excise duty, custom duty, sales tax, licensing fees, service tax, entertainment tax, these are some examples of indirect taxes before the introduction of GST. So before the GST was applied, earlier these taxes were applied. Now these taxes raise the price of goods and services produced. So whatever the goods and services are produced, these taxes raise the original price and it becomes higher. So these are called indirect tax. So these are called indirect tax because burden of these taxes is shifted to the buyer. So that buyer has to pay all the taxes. So we have seen whenever we buy a commodity or goods from a market, we see the MRP, maximum retail price. So it all includes all the taxes, and that price a consumer has to pay. So the burden is shifted to the buyer, although the responsibility of paying these taxes is on production unit. So whatever the production unit produces, that unit has to pay the burden. But these burdens or these taxes are levied on the consumer or on the buyers. Now GST, goods and service tax. This is an indirect tax. This is also indirect tax, and it was introduced in India on 1st July 2017. On 1st July 2017 it was introduced, and it replaced the multiple cascading taxes levied by the central and state governments. It was introduced as the Constitution 101st Amendment Act 2017. The GST is governed by the GST Council. So it is governed by the GST Council, and the chairman of GST is the Finance Minister of India. Now subsidies. Now we said that net indirect tax is the difference between indirect tax and subsidies. So subsidies, these are financial assistance by government to the enterprise of production of a certain commodity, or a compensation for selling a good at a certain price fixed by the government, which is below the open market price. So whatever the price is below the open market price, that is the subsidies. So some kind of subsidies are as compensation for selling goods below open market price, to encourage exports and to encourage employment. So subsidies reduce the price of goods and services. So what the subsidies does is that it reduces the price of goods and services. But indirect taxes, these raise the price of goods and services. So net indirect tax is calculated to know net impact of taxes on price of a commodity by subtracting subsidies from indirect tax. So if we subtract subsidies minus indirect tax, we get NIT. So then we get NIT.